I, the Jury, in 3D. Taking place shortly before Christmas, you might believe it is in fact taking place in Christmas Town itself, as there is hardly a shot that doesn't have some kind of gift box, tree, or holly to remind you of the season. Despite having no particular connection to the holiday, it is absolutely bleeding tinsel. This movie has perhaps the most variety of creative 3D portraits I have yet come across in a stereo movie. If I were setting out to make a 3D movie, I would aim to make it look kind of like this. Though I admit, a lot of this strong stereo is only possible in tight rooms or with stark night skies obscuring the distant background. You always want the foreground to cover up a little bit of the background. That's what creates the sense of depth. But too much disparity creates an uncomfortable feeling, and it's a challenge to deal with, especially with cameras at that time. You will find the camera's point of view often set in an imaginary corner of a room, giving this interesting diamond qualities to many of the settings. Although it's a lot more interesting to view things at an angle, what I noticed most about the technique is how it steered my eyes into that corner. It became a pivot point. Everything in that room was being assessed as to how it related into that corner, almost like I was calculating some kind of orbit around it. The value of that is that I was less concerned with what was immediately behind a person. It seemed to trick me into being less sensitive to background disparity. I also found myself wondering if the square 4:3 ratio helped the movie get away with more convergence than a wider view would. I noticed my eye really was not doing much moving and was very content to relax in the center of the screen. To that end, there's also an abundance of hallway shots, which, like the cubed screen, focused my view even further to an even narrower point. It actually came to remind me of the trench in Star Wars, and then it dawned on me this movie has a bit in common with Star Wars. Mike Hammer is depicted almost like a spaceship, constantly making epic departures and arrivals. Though maybe a ship isn't threatening enough analogy for the man, he is perhaps more like a tornado ripping through the city, an incredulous punishment of wind and fury. Similar to a dinosaur, and in similar fashion to a scene in Jurassic World, we get a nod to a Viewmaster and are treated to several pictures in a 3D slideshow. Curiously, the slides imitate a Viewmaster quite well as a cardboard display. The Viewmasters, though neat, rarely had true 3D photography and were often a primitive 3D conversion of popular movies and comics. This is a true 3D movie that wants to be seen in that format. It's not an afterthought or done against the director's will. It bleeds stereo as much as it bleeds Christmas. Unfortunately, the opening scene takes this a little too far and came across like a 3D parody with really over-the-top reach-outs to the camera. It takes a while to shake off the expectation of a clown show. The movie is over-the-top, but it does take itself seriously within its vision of the world. It's the first time the character Mike Hammer appeared on screen. He pretty much defined the Hollywood detective, and as a novel, I, the Jury, and the Hammer series in general was extremely popular at the time, but this wasn't considered a great adaptation. Although many other movies would follow, it wasn't until a remake of I, the Jury, in 1982 that fans of the series felt they had gotten a definitive version. Though for many, the best portrayal of Hammer was done by Stacy Keach in a mid-'80s television series. Apparently this was a restoration, though I found some instances where there was some misaligned flutter that really should be corrected. I didn't notice it give me any trouble watching on my living room-sized television, but I imagine it could be an issue in a larger or immersive of environment. Regardless, that shouldn't dissuade anyone from taking a look at this. It has some nice extras of old TV episodes on the disc, including an unaired pilot for a Mike Hammer TV show, and a 4K disc if you happen to poke an eye out this Christmas.